what would you say are the biggest things that do distinguish a happy lawyer from an unhappy lawyer?
So I've interviewed, dozens and dozens and dozens of lawyers at this point, and people who've left and people who've stayed. And one thing I've learned is that doesn't make a difference. It's not that people who leave are magically happier or people who stay are magically happier because they stuck with it. The code word I like to use is magic. It takes magic to be a happy lawyer. And so the M's are mindfulness and meditation. I think the happy lawyers tend to be people who are very aware and who are really good at managing their mindset and who don't get overcome by the stress. It's a really stressful job. There's a lot of anxiety. It can be very lonely. And for somebody who has that mindfulness practice and that meditation practice, it's a lot easier to find peace in their lives. Then there's the alignment piece. They know who they are and they're taking actions in alignment with those values and in an attempt to be that person. And they're not bifurcating who they are and their job. Because I think the people who struggle the most are the ones who are like, well, at work, I'm like this, but then I have this whole other life that's different from work. And so they're constantly trying to juggle between the two. When you can bring your whole self to work and really find an alignment between what you do and who you are, I think that happiness is much easier. Then there's the G, which is a gratitude. There are people who can put a positive spin on things, can be grateful for what they have, for what is working, who do reflect and say, even though this didn't work out, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have learned from it. Or I'm really grateful for the chances that I did have and the good things in my life that are working. Then there's the I, which is intentionality. And with that, I think it just comes down to feeling like agents in their lives, feeling like they have a choice, like they're not a victim of their circumstances, that they are picking to be a lawyer. Like nobody came and put a gun to their head and said, go to law school, get a good job, make a lot of money at a big law firm, and then complain for 15 years. Like they picked that. Every step of the way they made choices. And so they decide they're either going to stay on that track or they're going to get off. And either way, it's their choice. And then the last one is the C. And I think this is actually the hardest for lawyers. And that's calculated risk.
Wow. Talk more about that.
People who are happy are taking risks in their lives. People who are happy are doing things that feel a little bit scary because there's a sense of joy that comes from accomplishing things that are hard. And not hard necessarily in the really objective way, but really personally hard for you to conquer. And I think as lawyers, we can be very risk averse. And people often will pick what they think is the safe, easy thing over the hard, risky thing because they think it'll make them happier. They think the security and the safety will make them happy. But what they get is they get bored. And what they get is they get this sense that they're letting themselves down. Because if your self is saying you should go for that promotion, you should push a little bit harder to go for that thing, but the action you're taking is it's too risky. It's too risky to put myself out there. It's too risky to jump ahead of the line. So I'm just going to wait my turn. Then you just start disappointing yourself over and over again and not being that person and not taking, and I'm not saying that people should jump off cliffs. I'm fairly risk averse myself, but you have to know, I think with all of the other things I talked about, if you are mindful, if you know who you are, if you know what your values are, if you're grateful for what's working, if you're intentional about the choices you're making, you should know what tiny risk, medium risk, might feel like a huge risk, but what thing that you could be doing that would get you from where you are to that bigger version of your life. But lawyers are so afraid of those risks, and they'd rather be stuck and complain, the unhappy lawyers, and say they don't have a choice, than take that calculated risk and possibly fail.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.